Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Jashodanandana Jaya Brajajanaranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajajanaranjana Jaya Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayom Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrajagatacharya Stotra Shata Shri Sriman His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jayom Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrajagatacharya Stotra Shata Shri Sriman His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande.
Hare Krishna. So we are very fortunate to have with us His Grace Devavrat Prabhu. Prabhuji has done his graduation with a BA in Cultural Anthropology with specialization in Eastern thought and practice. Prabhuji got interested in spiritual life at the age of 17 when he first happened to read the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita at his friend's house. And he also received his first book, Srila Prabhupada's book, at a music festival in 2015. Then after receiving the book, he began chanting and going to the local temple in Seattle, Washington. And in 2017, after finishing education, he joined the Brahmacharya Ashram in Los Angeles. He joined with the aim to give his life in the service of Srila Prabhupada. Since 2017, he has been doing traveling Sankirtan out of Los Angeles. In 2018, he was made bus party leader, which continues to function as his primary service. In 2018, he received initiation from His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu. And in 2019, he was introduced to His Grace Radhesham Prabhu, and he accepted him as his Shiksha Guru. He continues to travel in America, doing full-time traveling Sankirtan, while simultaneously developing training and education programs in Los Angeles. Also, Prabhuji is assisting His Grace Radhesham Prabhu with youth outreach in San Jose and Los Angeles. And also, Prabhuji is traveling in India half of the year, connecting with Indian youths while receiving training under Radhesham Prabhu. So we are very fortunate to have Prabhuji with us. So let us welcome Prabhuji by once loudly chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naran Shaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashupraya Shirubhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Yasyam Vaishyamanayam Krishne Paramapurushe Bhakti Upadyate Pumsam Sokamoa Bhayapaha. Hare Krishna. So today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 22, Text 54. Chapter is entitled Prithu Maharaj's Meeting with the Four Kumaras. Vitashvam Durakshekesham Haryaksam Dravinam Vrikam Sarvesham Lokapalanam Dandaraktir Praturguna Vitashvam Durmarakshesham Haryaksham Dravinam Vrikam Sarvesham Lokapalanam Dandaraktai Pritogana Vijitashvam Drumrakesham Haryaksham Dravinam Rikam Sarvesham Lokapalanam Dandarakter Piturgana. Vichasvam, of the name Vichasva. Dhumrakesham, of the name Druma Rakesha. Haryaksham, of the name Haryaksha. Dravinam, of the name Dravina. Vrikam, of the name Vrikam. Sarvesham, of all. Lokapalanam, the governing heads of all planets. Dadara, accepted. Eka, one. Prithu Maharaj. Guna, all qualities. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. After begetting 5 sons named Vichashva, Druma Rekasha, Haryaksha, Dravina, and Vrika, Prithu Maharaj continued to rule the planet. He accepted all the qualities of the deities who govern all other planets. Purport. In each and every planet, there is a predominating deity. It is understood from Bhagavad Gita that in the sun there is a predominating deity named Vivishvan. Similarly, there is a predominating deity of the moon and of the various planets. Actually, the predominating deities in all other planets are descendants from the predominating deities of the sun and moon. On this planet Earth, there are 2 Kshatriya dynasties. One comes from the predominating deity of the sun, and the other from the predominating deity of the moon. These dynasties are known as Surya Vamsha and Chandra Vamsha, respectively. When monarchy existed on this planet, the chief member was one of the members of the Surya dynasty, or Surya Vamsha, and the subordinate kings belonged to the Chandra Vamsha. However, Maharaj Prithu was so powerful that he could exhibit all the qualities of the predominating deities on other planets. In the modern age, people from Earth have tried to go to the moon, but they have been unable to find anyone there. What to speak of meeting the moon's predominating deity? The Vedic literature, however, repeatedly informs us that the moon is full of highly elevated inhabitants who are counted amongst the demigods. We are therefore always in doubt about what kind of moon adventure the modern scientists of this planet Earth have undertaken. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunminitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svam Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschachadeshatarine Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratvise Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopeshva Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sude Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha Kalpatarum Bisya Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Makun Koriti Vachalam Pangalangayate Girim Yakripa Tanaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Durgame Pademinantasya Sakalat Paragater Mahur Swakripa Yasti Danena Santa Sanpa Balambanam Anandalilaya Maya Vigrahaya Himamba Divya Chavisundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasa Pradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Hare Krishna, pleasure for me to be in Hyderabad with all of you, and I seek all of your kind blessings, particularly the blessings of His Grace Anandamoya Prabhu, who's been serving the mission his entire life. I asked a devotee yesterday about him, and he was telling me that Prabhu's been only in Hyderabad serving. It's amazing. In Los Angeles, we have many devotees who are in a similar category, who've just dedicated their life to one project. And the amount of humility and realization and accessibility these devotees have is really a gift to the Krishna consciousness movement. So thank you, Anandamoya Prabhu, and please bless me that I can speak something that's pleasing to you. Hare Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, there's mention of the power a leader has in society, yat achari shreshtas, that whatever a leader does in society, whatever great men do in society, common men will follow. So we see at the beginning of this pastime with Maharaj Prithru that he was glorified greatly by the Brahmanas and by the demigods when he appeared in this world. He appeared from the body of Vena, because Vena was not a qualified leader. Whereas Maharaj Prithru exhibits the quality of being a completely qualified leader, and this was known from the time that he appeared within the world. His appearance, for one, was completely auspicious. And when he appeared, everyone began glorifying him, and Maharaj Prithru, due to his natural humble disposition, didn't accept any praise for himself and said, you should probably wait for me to achieve anything before you start praising me. And the Brahmanas, being so inspired by Maharaj Prithu's humility to kind of turn away praise, began to glorify him even more. So we see in this particular section of the Bhagavatam that Maharaj Prithru is executed of all of his activities now. He's milked the earth. He's performed his 99 horse sacrifice, and he's satisfied all the inhabitants of his kingdom properly, like a king should. And we see that now we're hearing glorification of what he has achieved after his appearance within this world. So what can we learn from the life of Maharaj Prithru in relationship to our own practice of Krishna consciousness? It's important for us to think about this when we study the Bhagavatam. How does this relate to my practice of Krishna consciousness? How does this affect my advancement in Krishna consciousness? Nasaprayashu Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. We are meant to come together and study the Srimad Bhagavatam in an assembly at least once a day. But then beyond that, we should also make time for studying the Srimad Bhagavatam on our own. And the more we can reflect on the message of the Bhagavatam, the more we can imbibe the message of the Bhagavatam. The natural result of that is bhakti bhavati naishtaki, that one becomes fixed in the process of devotional service. And the byproduct of that is tata rajas tamo bhava kama lobhadayasche chaitan adir anaditvam. Word. It means the mind is no longer agitated by the various symptoms of material life, lust, anger, greed, kam, krodh, lobh, matsarya, all these things, one's no longer agitated by these various symptoms of material life, having become fixed in the process of devotional service, and furthermore having actually developed a taste for it. So when we study the Srimad Bhagavatam, we shouldn't just study it in a superficial way and kind of glance over it and say, oh, that was nice, good stories. But we should reflect and ask ourselves, how does this apply to my application of the process of devotional service? So we see that in the prayers that are yet to come, there's one that particularly stands out to me. And it comes in text number 58. And it really gives a nice description of the qualities that we can practically cultivate, or we're expected to develop rather, through the practice of Krishna consciousness. Srimad Bhagavatam says, Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana savayargunas tatra samastase surya. That by engaging in devotional service, the natural byproduct is divine qualities should develop. And because the members of the Krishna consciousness movement are meant to become leaders in society, and not only leaders within our movement, but also leaders in society at large. Srila Prabhupada, he says in the introduction of Srimad Bhagavatam that this is a cultural movement for the re-spiritualization of humanity at large. So a cultural movement means that this is meant to influence the entire world. And I was just speaking with devotees yesterday about who Srila Prabhupada is. Sometimes we can easily overlook someone when we're in touch with that particular person so much. Familiarity breeds contempt. So one of the ways that we can overcome this familiarity is just to step back a little bit and look at things objectively. In the history of humanity, there's never been a human being that has been as well documented as Srila Prabhupada. Think about this just for a second. The amount of biographies which have been written about him, the amount of recordings that are available of his lectures, the amount of information that's in regard to his day-to-day life, room conversations, interviews. Even when in 1977 the devotees were becoming so skilled at recording everything that Prabhupada is doing that now there's even recordings of Prabhupada on the train with Rameshwar Maharaj and Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and they're discussing various topics on the train. So practically every moment of Srila Prabhupada's life is documented from 1966, 65 to 1977. There's never been a person, at least within the 20th century, the very least within the 20th century, and definitely there's never been a spiritual leader whose life has been as well documented as Srila Prabhupada. The life of Muhammad is documented. The life of Jesus Christ, it's documented, but there's some question about its historical accuracy. But Srila Prabhupada's life is completely historically authentic. There's recordings, there's books, there's eyewitness accounts. It's the most well-documented life that one can possibly come across. So when we consider this, and we consider why did Krishna arrange for Srila Prabhupada's life to be so well documented? And then we also take into consideration Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's prediction, Prithivichi yache yata nagaradi gram sarvatra prachar hoibe moranam. That this Krishna consciousness movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is meant to reach into every corner of the world, and in the next 10,000 years, the entire world will experience a golden age of Krishna consciousness. And this has specifically been inaugurated on a worldwide scale through A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the Saini Padi Bhakta of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan army. So we have so much information regarding Srila Prabhupada's life. So if we consider that, then we should consider that the books that he's written is of utmost importance for us to study, considering, objectively speaking, that he's the most well-documented spiritual leader to ever exist in human society. just on the basis of that objective fact, that what he has to say must be important if his life has been this well documented. So we should seriously consider what is in Srila Prabhupada's books. So this is the first quality that's being mentioned, or one of the qualities that's being mentioned by Prithu Maharaj in text 58. I'll read the verse, the English of the verse, and then I won't go into it too much, so whoever's giving class in 4 days isn't cursing me when that day comes. But I just wanted to speak about it because what's being spoken about in the verse I've been asked to speak about is the qualities of Prithu Maharaj. So those qualities are particularly mentioned in the verses that are yet to come. So I went ahead a little bit and I wanted to see what are those qualities that were mentioned. So it says that just as rainfall satisfies everyone's desires, Maharaj Prithu used to satisfy everyone. He was like the sea in that no one could understand his depths, and he was like Meru, the king of hills, in his fixity of purpose. So this deep study of Srila Prabhupada's books, this systematic study of Srila Prabhupada's books, which Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati called the process of incidental hearing, which means that just by simply going through the Bhagavatam over and over and over again, the natural byproduct of that is, I quote this verse all the time, Yat Shrut Vat Tat Paro Bhavet, that Krishna appears in this world for the purpose of exhibiting his pastimes, and through the exhibition of those pastimes, one develops a desire to enter within them. So through the systematic study of Srila Prabhupada's books, over and over and over again, not only should a leader be very qualified in terms of his material ability to organize people and inspire people, but simultaneously that leader should have great depth in their practice of Krishna consciousness. As I was saying, a surface level studying the Srimad Bhagavatam will give one a surface level practice of Krishna consciousness. Gaura Govinda Maharaj used to say that if one only studies Srila Prabhupada's books on the surface, all they'll find is seaweed. They'll become entangled in that seaweed. But if one goes deep into the knowledge that's within the Srimad Bhagavatam, one will find the treasures of the Bhagavatam in forms of pearls, gems, and great jewels, which become the sadhu bhushana, the ornaments of a Vaishnava, these jewels of realization that are contained within the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we should always understand that our goal in Krishna consciousness is not simply organizing a facility or infrastructure, but we have a very specific goal as being members of the Krishna consciousness movement, and this is mentioned by Rupa Goswami. Krita sadya bhavat sadya bhavasa sadanabhita nityasiddhasya bhavasya prakritam hridya sadyata, that the goal of Krishna consciousness, the purpose of sadhana bhakti, is to bring about bhava, love for Krishna. And this is performed through the engagement of devotional service, of the senses being engaged in the service of Krishna. So in order for one to have a proper practice of sadhana bhakti, then as I say, sadhana bhakti is like building a house of prema. Bhava bhakti is when the house is complete, and prema bhakti is when you fill it in. You fill in the home with various decorations and furniture and ornaments to decorate the home. But the process of building the house of prema, is the process of sadhana bhakti. And the process of sadhana bhakti cannot be executed properly unless we are thoroughly grounded in sambandha gyan. So when we have clear information of who we are and who Krishna is, this gives us a solid foundation by which we can build up the house of bhakti so it's very strong, and it won't collapse in due course of time due to improper construction of the home, due to missing a step. So in order to build a structure, everything needs to be done properly and with attention. So in the same way, our study of the Srimad Bhagavatam should be done with attention, and it should be done with absorption. If a leader is not thoroughly absorbed in the process of Krishna consciousness, the result of this lack of absorption, well, that one has to be absorbed in something. This is the nature of the living entity, is that it's subjected to being influenced by something. Just like on the shore of an ocean, the shore can either be covered by the ocean or it can be covered by the sky. But it has to be covered in some way. So we should make a conscious effort as members of the Krishna consciousness movement to be absorbed in Krishna. Constantly 24 hours absorbed in Krishna. Smartvayo satatam vishnur, vismartvayo najatu chit. Sarvaviti nasetasur, etayor eva kinkara. That the purpose of this facility, the purpose of having a temple, the purpose of bringing in various facilities in order for devotees to come, in order for people to come, is not simply to facilitate the public at large. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said that the purpose of the mutt is for pure devotees to make advancement in devotional service. And then the pure devotees, having tasted the fruit of devotional service, will distribute the remnants of that fruit of love of Godhead to anyone who's coming to the temple. And by this effort, many people can become Krishna conscious in due course of time. So the first quality of a leader, as being said by Maharaj Prithu, is that we should have great depth in our Krishna consciousness. We should really try to go beyond a superficial practice of Krishna consciousness and develop some deep realization and develop some deep contemplation into the practice of Krishna consciousness and the realizations which are naturally embedded within that practice. So then the next quality is, it's just as rainfall satisfies everyone's desires. Maharaj Prithu used to satisfy everyone. So in this regard, the first duty of a leader, the first abhiman of a leader, everyone in this world has two occupations. They have occasional occupations and they have eternal occupations. And it's the duty of everyone to see that their eternal occupation is being upheld in the course of them having to tend to their occasional occupation. As Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj used to say, while dealing with the many, don't forget the one. So when dealing with many things, don't forget the main purpose. So what is the main purpose of being a leader? The main purpose of being a leader is you are a leader in order to be of service. You are not a leader for the purpose of being proud of your position or for controlling and dominating people. You are in the position of leadership for facilitating devotional service. His Holiness Bhadranarayan Maharaj, who is a very illustrious leader of North America, once was on a walk with Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada had just made him the temple president of the Ann Arbor Temple in Michigan. So Bhadranarayan Maharaj, he personally told me this story. He tells this story a lot, but he told me it personally. He told me that he was walking with Srila Prabhupada and he asked Srila Prabhupada a question. And the purpose of asking the question wasn't necessarily so much to get an answer, but to fish out a compliment from Srila Prabhupada. So he said, Srila Prabhupada, what is the duty of being a temple president? What is the duty of being a manager? And Srila Prabhupada said, stopped, put his cane in the ground, looked at him fiercely in the eyes and said, duty of temple president means that if anything goes wrong, it's your fault. So Bhadranarayan Maharaj also tells a story about how when he was the temple president, he was in the shower and a devotee came in and said, Prabhu, there's this issue, there's that issue. And he said, well, I'm in the shower. And he said, that's okay, I don't mind. The devotee was asking. So a leader has to be always willing to extend themselves. They should never think that they have free time to themselves. That their primary occupation is to see that everyone in their care is being engaged in devotional service and that they are fostering a spirit, as Srila Prabhupada said in a letter to Karandar Prabhu, that the duty of a manager is to foster a spirit of individual, spontaneous, and voluntary service within the heart of their subordinates, their dependents. This is the primary occupation of a leader. So this means that a leader needs to be a servant. A leader needs to always feel, how can I help all of these people? How can I engage them in Krishna's service? How can I make them more successful than me? So a leader simultaneously a servant leader is always considering a plan of succession. As Radhesham Prabhu has once said that Radhanath Maharaj personally told him, manage in such a way that you free yourself up to preach. So a leader is always considering what is the next step? What is the next step for my own progress? Rather than thinking that I achieve this position so then I remain here and I enjoy the facility, one is always considering what is the next step of progress. It's just like as you're going through the different grades. You know, you go through the 4th standard, 5th standard, 6th standard. You don't want to get stuck in a particular position. So in the same way, a leader is never considering that I'm the king of 5th standard. I mean, the 5th grade, you know, if you come to the 5th grade and you just stay there and I'm forever the king of 5th grade, that's not progress. That's considered to be a demotion rather than a promotion. So a good leader is always considering how can I empower those around me to put them in the position of serving even more people? How can I put them in the position that I'm in so I can do more service in the future? So one doesn't become caught up in their position and one doesn't develop a Dhritarashtra syndrome, as my Guru Maharaj says. Dhritarashtra was very much attached to being his position, so much so that he was actually completely shameless near the end of his life. And it wasn't until Vidura came and woke him up, Santasya evasya chindanti, manovya sangam uktibihi, that he came in contact with the words of a sadhu. And due to being in contact with the words of that sadhu, he was able to cut his material attachment. So we don't want to get caught up like Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra exhibited this symptom of weakness of heart, that although he knew that Duryodhana was going to create havoc in the world, although he knew Duryodhana was not qualified as qualified as Yudhishthir, and despite the fact that Krishna came and told this personally to Dhritarashtra, Dhritarashtra said, I know that's the truth, but I'm not able to do it. So a leader should not become caught up with weakness of heart due to attachment to facility. One should always be considering a system of empowerment. One should always be considering a plan of succession by which those around them can take up more responsibility and become more enlivened in their own practice of devotional service, and that the spirit of those that are around them is individual, spontaneous, and voluntary. This means individual, spontaneous, and voluntary, that you don't need to tell people to do something when something needs to be done. They automatically know what needs to be done, and they do it in a hearted way, that it's not coming from a platform of simply feeling obligated to do something, but their heart is invested into it, that I want to do this because I know this is pleasing to Krishna. So a leader is constantly inculcating principles of service, and they're inculcating principles of humility, and they're inculcating principles of becoming attentive to the subtle details of service. We see that when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associates were entering into Jagannath Puri, the quality that particularly stands out to me is that when the associates were entering, Gopinath Acharya and Maharaj Prataparuja were waiting on the roof of the palace, naming all the associates as they were coming in. And Maharaj Prataparuja said, I've never seen kirtan like this before. What is this kirtan? He said, this is Prem Nam Sankirtan. This is the holy name imbued with Krishna Prema. So Maharaj Prataparuja was completely astonished. And he immediately began making all arrangements for all the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to see that they are served properly. And there's something very interesting which comes in Srila Prabhupada's translation of this section. Maharaj Prataparuja says, serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates according to their indications, and not according to what is directly said. Devotees are by nature very shy, and they may not necessarily directly express what they want. But we should have the devotional intelligence, we should have the service attitude, and we should have the disposition of care. This is really what having a service attitude means. It means to care. And as the most exalted, His Holiness Naranjana Maharaj says, to care means that you have to care. That's a good first step to developing a system is care, is that you should want to care. And then those who are learning how to care should care in such a way that they know what is needed before those around them even know what they need. This is called a preemptive service attitude. So leaders should inculcate values of a preemptive service attitude by being an example themselves, yet achari shreshtas, that they're always considering what are the needs of the people that I'm with in order for them to become empowered, in order for them to excel in their service of devotional, in their service to Krishna, in their service to the Guru. And then simultaneously, as Srila Prabhupada is exhibiting in this purport today, he says, he was like Meru, the king of hills, in fixity of his purpose. So as Srila Prabhupada is very boldly saying, and this is why we love Srila Prabhupada, is because he speaks the truth, despite the opinion of the public. Tatavdu sangha usrijya santu sajeta bhutiman. Santasya eva sichindanti manovyasangam uktibihi. That the words of a sadhu, they cut through our manovyasangam, our mental attachments, our consideration of what is right and wrong in this world, icha dvesha samutena, is completely obliterated by the words of a sadhu, because their words are coming from the realm of transcendence, where all of this so-called good and bad of this material world, it's all bad. There's no good. There's nothing auspicious in this world. Everything's inauspicious. So they bring us to the platform of absolute goodness, Shuddha Sattva, through their penetrating words, which are empowered by the internal potency of the Samvit and Hladini Shakti. And when these words enter into the heart of the living entity, it coagulates one's ignorance in such a way that the ignorance is eradicated and one becomes fully aware of who they actually are as a servant of Krishna. So a leader simultaneously has to be bold. And as Srila Prabhupada points out in this purport, we are therefore always in doubt about what kind of moon adventure the modern scientists of this planet Earth have undertaken. Nowadays, this is very easy to accept because we have enough research, we have enough information to draw this conclusion very logically. But when Srila Prabhupada was saying this, devotees were leaving the movement. So we should not be so much caught up with what the opinion of the public is in the course of us preaching Krishna consciousness. We should always be respectful, just like Srila Prabhupada. But simultaneously, we should present the truth in an unabashed way and expect that enemies will come in the course of us preaching Krishna consciousness. But it is our duty to, as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, put the sacrificial animal of material desires on the sacrificial altar and slain that animal of material desires with the sword of the sharp words of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And we should be completely bold in doing this. So it's the duty of a leader to present the truth and see that the truth is brought forth in this world. Satya eva bijayate. A leader is meant to represent Krishna. So the words of a leader should only be repeating what the previous acharyas are saying. That a leader of devotees, a leader of society does not tolerate any deviation within the process of a devotional service. Shruti Shmiti Puranadi Pancharatrakat Vinidvya Aikantiki Hare Bhakter Upayaiva Vikalpate. Understanding that although this slight incision of the knife of sharp words may be painful to begin with, what's even more painful is experiencing the destructive effects of a deviant philosophy within human society and the effect that has on the overall spiritual advancement of society at large. So a leader does not tolerate deviation, a leader does not tolerate improper conduct, and he's very uncompromising in seeing that pure principles are upheld, but simultaneously accommodating and providing facility to see that everyone is able to engage in devotional service in a very liberal way. So these are a few thoughts that I've had about Maharaj Prithu over the past few hours since Achyuta Gopal Prabhu gave me this verse. So, first quality of a leader is that there's depth in his practice of Krishna consciousness. Second quality is the first identification that a leader has is Chaitanya Dasar Mune, Chaitanya Das Mune, Taran Dasar Anudas, that I am a servant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I am a servant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I am a servant of the servant of the servant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is the first feeling that a leader has. Before they feel that they're a leader, first they feel that they're a servant. And they've only been put in this position in order to be of more service. It's a blessing of the spiritual master. As Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati once said, that he never considered that he accepted any disciples, because Gaurkishore Das Babaji gave him 3 instructions, which he said he executed with complete focus. His first instruction was don't accept disciples. His second instruction was don't associate with anyone. Third instruction was never go to Kolkata. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, I fulfilled the first instruction because I never accepted any disciples. Anyone who's come and considered me to be their spiritual master, I've actually considered them to be my spiritual master. So because he considered all of his disciples as his guru, whenever they would pay obeisances to him, whenever they would touch his feet, he would simply respond and say, Das Osmi, I am your servant. And then the second, he said, I never associated with anyone in this world because the only thing I ever associated with was the instructions of my spiritual master. And the third quality was that never go to Kolkata. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, I never went to Kolkata because I only stayed in the Gaudiya Math when it appeared that I was in Kolkata, which is non-different from Vrindavan. So a leader is first of all a servant, and they never consider that their dependents are dependent on them. Rather, their dependents are dependent on Krishna, and they foster and create an atmosphere in which that feeling of dependence on Krishna, that mood of surrender is cultivated in an individual, spontaneous, and voluntary way. And then the third quality of a qualified leader is to be bold, to speak the truth despite public opinion, and cut through the misconceptions of the public at large, and cut through the misconceptions that could be potentially taking place within the society of devotees in order to protect the process of devotional service, in order to protect the message of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in order to preserve the legacy of the Guru Parampara, to see that Bhaktivinoda Dhara, that flow of the Bhaktivinoda Thakur, can enter into every nook and cranny of this world, and that Nityananda, Lord Nityananda, can continue to cut a channel and make the ocean, the storehouse of love of God, accessible to as many people in the world. So these are a few thoughts that I had about Maharaj Prithu. So now we have a few minutes. I think, what time does the class end? 9:15. So we have 7 minutes to have a discussion. If there's any reflections or questions. I say reflections because my spiritual master says it. And I notice it works really well because questions can be very hard for people. But reflections are easy because all you have to do is repeat something that you heard. Yes, Prabhu.
Happy to welcome you to Hyderabad and your non-stop explanation regarding the verses and many references which you have quoted. We are very much heartily happy. And regarding this, going through again and again of Prabhupada's books
Yes.
is very much needed. You told again and again, it's accepted by everybody, senior disciples and gurujis. Everybody accepted this, and these bridge books, they should be avoided. There is no need, as you told, going through again and again the Prabhupada's books is must. And you may emphasize this more and more also in wherever you go. And also, services, new sadhaka bhaktas, they should follow Rupa Goswami's Upadeshamrita first. First sloka, first word, Vacho Vegam. They shouldn't talk much. They should use other senses, because I have been in temples and services also, dedicated whole life for 50 years. But 25 years I have been in contact with the systems. And Anandamay Prabhuji, his great blessing to be in his association. And I am very much grateful to him. And his service or anybody's service provided or given by, entrusted by Prabhupadaji's future thinking, these services shouldn't be denied. They shouldn't be stopped. They shouldn't be troubled. So, senior devotees should be safeguarded wherever they may go, wherever they reside, wherever they've been entrusted services by Prabhupadaji, they should be safeguarded. So, here, Bhagavad Gita in Telugu version unnecessarily being provided, so that nowhere in the whole world it is being going on. This conspiracy should be stopped. You may give this message to anyone who are all related to this. And also, very much thank you.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Very enthusiastic reflection. I appreciate it very much. Hare Krishna.
Out of more reflections. Service oriented.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very much happy.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for wonderful class. I write down many points and I try to apply those points. You told about we have to read Srimad Bhagavatam properly and practice as per Shastra. We have to be servant of servant and leaders should be bold. So first question, like I got one question from first point you told about reading Srimad Bhagavatam. That by reading Srimad Bhagavatam that go into the depth and then from that the behavior will be changed of the devotee. So my question is this. For my personal application, that what milestone can we keep to know that what I am reading when I reading Srimad Bhagavatam, that is really going into the deep and that is really changing my behavior or not?
If I understood properly, because the hand was kind of on the microphone a little bit, but if I understood what you said properly, I think I understood it. How do I know I'm making progress in my study of Srimad Bhagavatam? Is that what you asked?
Yeah. What milestone we can keep?
Yeah, so the Srimad Bhagavatam gives you a clear outline at the second chapter of the first canto, beginning with Shushusho Shadadanasya and ending with Vidyate Hridaye Grantis, Chidyate Sarva Samsayaha. So, as Srila Prabhupada would say, that one should feel a reducing of the material fever. One should feel the pushings of the mind and senses reducing. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita. Jnana Ashya Shuvairagyam Jnanam Chadyada Hoitukam. Two things should be taking place within the heart of a practitioner who's seriously studying the Srimad Bhagavatam, and will take place provided they're studying the Srimad Bhagavatam sincerely and not offending devotees. The natural byproduct of that will be that one will develop a sense of detachment. Means that when one is overcome by the pushings of the mind and the senses, it's very difficult to relish the message of the Srimad Bhagavatam. But if one just sticks with it, Syat Krishna Nama Charitarsa Satapta Vidya, Pipota Papa Rasanasin Rochi Kanu, Kinvara Radu Kalanam Svarakala Justas, Swadi Kramat Bhavadit Kad Galamula Hantri, that the natural byproduct, if one just keeps taking the medicine, is it becomes relishable. But when one is sick, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that it's very difficult to relish the taste of food when one is sick. So the natural byproduct of reading the Srimad Bhagavatam regularly is that one won't want to put it down. And the natural byproduct of reading the Srimad Bhagavatam will that they'll be in a dilemma as to whether they should chant the holy names or whether they should study the Srimad Bhagavatam. Their mind is torn between the two. They don't know if they should put down their bead bag and pick up the Bhagavatam, and they don't know if they should put down the Bhagavatam and pick up their bead bag. They're torn between the two. This is the result. One develops Vasudeva Kataruchi, that your mind is only drawn to the message of the Bhagavatam. So this is a practical result. We can see how attracted I am to the message of the Bhagavatam. How much is my contemplation going towards this feeling of being a servant? Because the opposite end of that is Dayato Vishayam Pumsam kamat tesu vijayate. Sangat sanjayate kaman, kamat tesu vijayate. That one becomes enamored and overcome by the attractions of this world. So don't become enamored by this world. Develop a detachment from it and knowledge of who you are spiritually by regularly reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. And even if you don't have a taste now, if you just stick with it, through the potency of the Srimad Bhagavatam and through the potency of the process of devotional service, Sadhu Sangha Krishna Kripa Bhaktira Swabhav Tina Sabad Chadaya Hare Krishna Bhav. This verse explains that if one wants to overcome all obstacles on the path of devotional service, it will be overcome through Sadhu Sangha, Krishna Kripa, and Bhaktira Swabhav. The nature of devotional service itself will free one from that attraction. So stick with the Srimad Bhagavatam. There's nowhere else to go. Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhagavad Gita, Sri Asha Upanishad. Srila Prabhupada's books are all encompassing. And when one has made a thorough study of Srila Prabhupada's books, then one can begin to see what do the acharyas have to say about what's there and corroborate everything in the mood of Srila Prabhupada. One problem that can arise after reading Srila Prabhupada's books a few times is that one becomes diverted by, like Tapana Misra, Bahu Shastre, Bahu Vake, Chitta Brahma Hoy, Sadhya Savana Shreshta Hoy, Sarva Nischai. That what happens is, by reading so many scriptures and hearing from so many people, one becomes unsure about the sadhya and the sadhana. So it's not that reading other books by the acharyas is forbidden. Srila Prabhupada was asked about this. He said, Prabhupada, you said that we're not allowed to read the acharyas' books. He said, I did not say. And he said, I said, first, assimilate what you already have. So we should assimilate what's in Srila Prabhupada's books, become very well grounded in that. Like I was saying, process of devotional service is we're building a house of bhakti. We're building a house of prema. In order for that house to be built, there needs to be a foundation. And that foundation specifically comes through the Bhaktivedanta purports. I'm going over time. I hope I'm not upsetting anyone. Should we stop there? Sarva Siromani Prabhu? Okay. So thank you all very much. If anyone has any questions or comments, you can come speak with me after class. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Anandamoya Prabhu, for everything that you're doing. My obeisances to all the devotees here. Vancha kalpatrum visriya kripasinnirevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Nande nichaya trinikam pariyorni patyat kirta sakakam sadev araham bravimi. He sadhava sakameva vihaya durat gauranga chandra charane kanditana ragam.